Hello, everyone at Numot. This is Keith Watabayashi here again. I just finished a 7-0 draft, and sadly, this wasn't one I was planning to record. It was just kind of on my own time. But I wanted to make this quick video going over the deck and why I think it went 7-0, and just to kind of go through a really strong deck. So we're back up to rank 47 after this. As you can see, we have our 7 wins. Yay, 7 wins, no losses. This was the redemption draft. Sadly, though, we didn't record the whole thing. But let's take a look at the deck. So, no real surprise, it's Stone Scar. Stone Scar is probably the strongest pairing in draft just because of the sheer strength of like Shadow. You have the great grindy, value cards. And with Fire, you have the really good aggression card. So you have a really nice mix of offense, defense, proactive and reactive cards. This particular deck came together pretty easily. Even if I had recorded a video of me drafting, it wouldn't have been that interesting just because we first picked a Suffocate, followed by a second pick Torch, into a third pick Smuggler Stash, and the deck just came together from there. Some things to note about this deck on the overall power level of it is the 2 Smuggler Stash, Suffocate and Torch, 2 Morning Stars, a Rebel Illuminator, Fevered Scout. So the deck, 2 Monuments. The deck was utterly powerful. So of course, you would want this deck to get to 7 wins, and it's not surprising that it can go 7-0 just because of the raw power level. Some of the other things about this deck that make it so great are the tempo plays you have. So in a Smuggler Stash deck, I really prioritize 1-drops if I can, because you're going to be playing your weapons and your Smuggler Stash off curve. So in a Smuggler Stash deck, you're not looking to go like 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop, 5-drop equipment, trade, Smuggler Stash, and you really want to be playing a Smuggler Stash on turn 5 or 6 to get that immediate value. And you want the game to be in a state where you can afford to play a Smuggler Stash. So the game either has to be at parity or you have to be ahead. And having the 1-drops so you can play off curve to play your weapons before turn 5 is really important. And honestly, I couldn't have really asked for too many better options than the ones I have. So 2 Grenadine drones. This is arguably the best 1-drop for this kind of deck because it creates 2 units in one. So you have it's hard to remove your guy from the board, so you have something to play a weapon on. It makes a great blocker if you just want to put all your weapons on one guy and keep smashing. And it's great with things like Dark Return and Smuggler Stash because you get 2 units for the price of 1 spell. Blood Beetle is great in this kind of deck because it doesn't get instantly killed by things like Temper or Snowballs or Amethyst Acolyte. And if you put a weapon on it and it connects and it gets flying, when you Smuggler Stash it or Dark Return it, you have a flyer. The Blood Beetle Dark Return interaction is really strong and one that if you can get, you should try to make happen because paying 2 mana for a 3/3 flyer that becomes a 4/3 flyer if they don't block it is just fantastic. Going on to the 2-drops, this is where my deck didn't get great options, but the ones we did get were perfectly fine. Obsidian Golem's great. It's kind of the perfect 2-drop for this deck, even though it's kind of understated and people can play around it. It's really vulnerable to silence. But Cabal Cutthroat and Scavenging Vulture were fine, just because they have other game ticks on top of being vanilla 2-drops that you can put weapons on. My 3s are where the deck got really interesting. Fevered Scout is excellent. I think this is some kind of an homage to Fevered Visions, which is one of the best cards ever in Magic. So much fun. And this is a great card when you have low-cost spells like, Dark Return or your Suffocate or your Torch, even like a Treachery. So Fevered Scout is like a 4/4 or 6/6. Great thing to get War Cries on. Great thing to get Dark Return on. So this was really, really solid 3-drop. Recondo Flagbearer is interesting. I think this card is a little underrated. Not that it's a great card, but it's not played as much as it should. So, for example, why I think this card is better than other kind of normal 3-drops is it demands attention. I played one game in this draft where my opponent had a Dawnwalker, and I attacked with the Flagbearer. And normally, you wouldn't trade a Dawnwalker for a 1/1 unless you had some way, to get it back or anything. But my opponent just didn't want the Warcry to go through it, like over multiple turns. So it demands attention. If it's left unchecked, it can just run away with the game. And if you're lucky enough to get like a Morningstar on it, and now you have a 4/4 Warcry 2, I mean, it's insane. So in a weapons deck, Flag Bearer is just, it can do a lot of work. It's not your premium 3-drop, but it's good in a pinch. The Shogun Scepter was great. This card is so good if you can get it to work. The fact that it's a 2-for-1, maybe a 3-for-1 is amazing. The double fire influence is kind of a problem, but I mean, it's rare for a reason. So yeah, we had so much power in this deck. Outland Sniper and Rebel Illuminator were, I mean, actually my 4s, I would say in general, Sniper, Illuminator, and 2 Recogulators, probably the perfect 4s you could have. These all have extra value, and that's what you want when you want to be, when you can get your guys back from the graveyard. You really do want them to have something other than just stats. So I had one game where I Dark Return this, and and that let me play a 2/2, a 3/3, and deal 4 damage. I mean, it was just insane. Illuminator, of course, having an extra torch. There's a 2-for-1, a 3-for-1 if you get it back with Dark Return or Smuggler Stash, so it's just great. Recogulator, similar to the Grenadine Drone, just has so many bodies in one card. Excellent target to get back with Dark Return. I mean, just great. Revolver's fine. This card's like, it's medium. When it's good, it's really good. When it's bad, it's really bad. But, if you're playing a tempo deck and, your opponent's trying to keep up, and they keep playing 2s and 3s and stuff to keep up with your 3s and weapons, this is a great way to finish off units. The extra 2 damage to the face can be relevant. And then 2 Smuggler Stash. We actually could have had 3, but really, you really don't need more than 1 a game to win. But having 2 meant that we drew this pretty much every match, which was, key, and so that was great. Frontline Cyclops, fine finisher. I mean, really, any 6-drop would have worked here. The fact that it was a giant Warcry unit was just a bonus. So this deck was just loaded up on power, great synergies. I had some close games, but I mean, nobody could compete with 2 Smuggler Stash and Dark Return, getting out this extra value. Overall, the deck just performed perfect. Again, we went a perfect 7-0. The one mistake in this deck I think I made is the way I built the mana. Looking at these numbers, I really wanted to make sure I could hit my early shadow cards because they are really important, like having Dark Returns available, Suffocates, Vulture, and then of course you want them by turn 5 for your Smuggler Stash. So I ran 8 Shadow Sigils and 8 Fire Sigils, but as you can see, we have 21 fire cards and 13 shadows, so the ratio was way off. I mean, it really should have been something like maybe like 9 and 7, because we also have early plays with fire. And there were a few games when I had to sweat a couple of draws to get the second fire for Shogun Scepter or Sniper. That didn't hurt me too much, just because, again, the deck has so much raw power. But it would have been a little bit smoother if I had changed the mana a little bit. But one reason why I did build the mana this way is because I have the 2 monuments. So it's possible. I left myself open the possibility of not playing the 1 shadow in my hand because I want to get the 3/3 Puma, which means I need to have extra regular Shadow Scissors to play. But really, it didn't come up that much, and the bigger problem was not having 2 fire influence for Scepter, Furnace Mage, and Sniper. So I think the mana was a bit off in this, but it was fine. 16 was the perfect number of power cards. Never flooded, never got choked, because this deck can operate on 3 or even 2 really without a problem. Another good thing about Dark Return with the 1-drops is it makes having 2 power totally fine. And if you can recur things like Grenadine Drone as a 2/2 with the extra body, or Blood Beetle as a 3/3, or like a 4/3, or a Golem as a 3/3, you can stay, but you can stay in the game until you draw enough mana to play your more powerful cards, and that did happen a couple of games. Another good thing about a deck with Smuggler Stash and a lot of weapons, you're a little less vulnerable to flood, just because weapons can be a good mana sink. You can just keep dumping them on the one guy, and then you do need a lot of mana to get Smuggler Stash effective, because you have to pay 5 and then replay those cards. So 16 was totally fine. Even like the couple of games where I drew like 7 or 8 power, I always had things to do, so it was great. But that said, I didn't have any games where I drew all my threes and had only 2 power. I didn't have any games where I drew all my ones and had all sigils. So overall, great draft. I'm sorry I didn't record it, but I just want to show you guys a example of a 7-0 deck and some of the things to think about when you're out there drafting. And really look for, if you want to go a Smuggler Stash deck, which is one of the best decks, and it is a pushed archetype in Eternal Draft Design. Really make sure you prioritize early drops to put your weapons on, and value units that don't just have raw stats but also have relevant game text if you're going to recur them. So with that, let's check out our swag. 3 diamond chests. Been a while. I like getting the 6 grand. That's a whole other draft. Woohoo! On our quest to go infinite. Oh, sad day. No legendary. Kano Artisan, great card. Hey, there's a Smuggler Stash. If I opened this pack, what would you? This is actually a pretty good pack. What would you first pick in this pack? Tough choice. Probably not the Recano Artisan. Maybe the Smuggler Stash. That's the best Stone Scar card. Maybe a Dark Return if I want to stay open with Shadow. Bright Mace Paladin if I was really feeling like going Combre. And sometimes, you just want to go Combre. But there's also a Monument, which is probably the better Combre card. This would be a tough first pick. I would probably take the Smuggler Stash, though, and go from there. Or the Monument, depending on what I thought I was in the mood to kind of draft. But I think Monument, Stash, and Paladin would be the three options as a first pick. Ooh, we got a Legendary. All right, man, could this draft be any better? I would definitely take the Marison as a first pick. And I would do everything I could to get to it because it is virtually an unbeatable bomb. And Combre, in time, you can ramp and you can get to 8 without much of a problem. Otherwise, I would take a Torch. So if I was feeling like I wanted to do a longer draft and grind games out, I'd play Marison with card draw, so probably like a Legion ramp. Or if I was in a hurry, I wanted to be aggro, I'd take a Torch. Also a good pack. Eldest, Amulet, and Torch are all would be considered first picks. Haunting Scream isn't even a terrible first pick, but you really want the payoffs before you have the enabler. But Marison is just amazing, so I would probably just take that. Another Legendary, man. After having a really bad week last week and going all the way down to 105 and winning like 2 games in draft, 1 game in draft. If you've seen my first draft video, we only won 1 game. This is a good way to get it going. This is a good Tuesday. All right, 2 Legendaries after 7-0. Ooh, Augmented form. I would not take this first pick though. Well, maybe I would. Justice is pretty good. 3 Influence is tough, but if Justice is your main color, that's not a bad thing. And this card's pretty nuts. Something I didn't realize about this, even though it says it's a fast spell, it's like an enchantment. So it just makes your unit +6/+6 forever. So like if it dies and you get it back from the graveyard, from the void, it's still the +6/+6. So like if you stuck this on the Huruf Legend, it'd be a 9/9. If they killed it and you brought it back, it would come back as a 9/9. So I might take this. This is a really, really powerful card. But there is also a Lightning Storm, which is also a really powerful card. It would be tough, but because it's legendary and because it's different, I'd probably take the augmented form. So anyway, that's it. Thank you everyone for checking out this video. Just a little something different, but draft related, and I'll see you next week with another draft.